Hi. Hi, everybody. We're going to go through the intro just like we always do, even though you all probably have it memorized. Oh, maybe we should make you guys do it. No, totally kidding. Totally kidding. So welcome to MVP Office Hours. Today's July 7th, 2023. Squire is here. Squire, say hello. Dale is off gallivanting around the world somewhere. So he won't be joining us today. But I'm here. You can find Squire and I on Twitter and Dale on LinkedIn. And I think you're probably gonna have to start looking for us in other places too, because I don't know what's happening on Twitter. In any case, the best place to connect with us is in the success community. And we can drop that link in the chat, but I think everyone here is part of that, so I'm not too worried about it. Because then everybody can answer. Whereas if you email us, it's going to have to wait till one of us gets the email. All right, next slide. Oh yeah, and we meet in the first and third Fridays for the most part, unless there's a holiday like this week, but we meet anyway. Our next call is July 21st. It's a Friday. Registration link is available at bit.ly/MVPOH. Recordings are available on YouTube. And we've got our favorite hashtags, and we'd like to welcome everybody to our current and our future MVPs. Everybody needs to participate. That's Kathy, that's Christy, that's Diane, that's Todd, Squire, you too. If you have questions, you can just shout it out because there's 5 of us today. But or post your question in the chat, or raise your hand, whatever you want to do. We also recommend sharing a screen, but please don't share any company or private data or information. We are recording. Have fun, informal, keep it professional. We don't want anyone to get into hot water because of something we said here. And that's really it. That's the rules and regulations, right? Community events. Is anyone going to Forcelandia? That's like this week, right? Next week, Monday. Tahoe Dreaming's coming up. I'm not going to either of those. Midwest Dreaming's in August. Witness Successes in August. And then Life Sciences Dreaming. That's a new one.
Yep, it just popped up too, so I think they might have been in the works. Excellent. Just for this year as a first timer. So
good for them. And then of course the big event Dreamforce is September 12th. And if you are going to be there, I'd love to hear about it. I'm going to be there. Yes, Kathy will be there. Not bringing back another pair of slippers. She gave them to me.
I'm learning how to go to these events and bring back things. So I just, the slippers were just a bit much. So.
They're great. They're great. Christy, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Could you get me stickers while you're there?
What stickers do you want, Christy? What stickers do you want?
I will get with you afterwards then on Slack. Thank you.
We'll go through some stickers sometime. I'll send you some stickers. But yes, okay. I can bring stickers home. So sign up for mutual, all that stuff. All right. We've seen that before. Let's go to the next. So Margie, who's not on the call, asked about enabling Einstein Opportunity Scoring in a full sandbox because not many of our opportunities were scored. What have your results been? Are there any best practices for testing Einstein Opportunity Scoring in a sandbox? And Squire, you had said that you thought most of this had been addressed in the group.
Yeah, I mean, in short, Margie didn't realize that the scoring was based on some machine learning that you had to have data for in order to actually build the modeling. And then the conversation went as far as additionally, when you create your full sandbox, if you're not bringing in history, when you check that box, then it doesn't have the history to learn from either. So while you can't really run it in the sandbox unless you load a bunch of data, you can't really run it in full until you've got all of the data. And so I think it was kind of an aha for Margie to realize that, oh yeah, there's nothing for it to learn from. So it seemed like it resolved itself, but it would have been good to see where she went with it if she joined us today. So if she comes back, maybe we'll circle back.
All right. So Margie, great question. Way to put it out there to get the fastest response from our little family of MVP Office Hours participants. Anyone have questions? Christy, Kathy, Diane, Todd, what you got for us?
To be honest, nothing.
slow week. So
I'm
you don't know what
slugging
to
through a
do.
migration and I need, to hear other people's problems so I don't worry about my own.
Well,
I can go on and on with my problems, but nobody's going to want to hear those.
Oh, Diane, we love your problems. You have welcome to share. I do have a follow-up question for Kathy though. First, migrating Sandbox Salesforce to Salesforce, or Salesforce off, or something on? What do you got going on?
From another donation system, I just installed NPSP into an existing Salesforce org, and I'm trying to migrate or merge or whatever word you want to use from another donation system that they've been using into Salesforce. So there's, duplicate contacts and accounts and splitting up couples. And so it's yeah, all sorts of fun.
All right. You say fun with your teeth clenched. It doesn't sound like fun.
My brain's saying, I don't mind doing this, but when we're talking about over 100,000 existing records,
Yeah.
or
Wow.
over 200,000 existing records, and importing about 70, or comparing it to the 75 in the other one, it's 75 grand. It's like, who did anybody check this before we sort of signed the contract? So it's like, okay. But
do you have a compare tool that you're using, or is it all manual?
you know what? It's I've sort of am using a combination of Excel, duplicate rule things, but I've come across a little bit of an issue that some of the numbers have flipped. So now I'm painstakingly going through just to double check to make sure it's all cool. Because it's like, I don't want to re-export everything and start all over again. Because I'm sort of at that point where, no, I don't want to start again. So.
Sure. I only ask because I believe there are like some of the dupe partners, like Serum Fusion, I think, has a couple nonprofit like offerings that could help with the merge in the long run and give you some good fuzzy match tooling to help with the merge. So don't feel like you've got to pound through it with the tools at disposal. There might be something for you.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's pretty much matched, but there's the odd problem that is coming up. So it's like,
all right,
but it's okay. I'm getting there.
Good. I'll share my Sales Cloud to FSC Cloud conversion horror stories in about 6 months. So then we can compare notes.
Oh, yeah.
This is where, for me, it's not CRM Fusion anymore. Actually, it got bought by Validity. Demand tools, and I use that tool every day. And I've done 7 different migrations in my long career. And that tool it's just invaluable. It has a find IDs feature where you can actually bounce data in a spreadsheet off of your Salesforce data. And you can come back and it'll come back and tell you whether it exists or not. Of course, there's a lot of kind of tweaking you have to do to get it to make a match, an exact match, right? Because no data is perfect.
Right.
Anyway, for future, I would recommend that tool is fantastic.
Yeah, I really loved demand tools when I was up to my elbows in data. I really loved it. I'm not there anymore, so and I also don't have it, but loved it when I did.
Yeah, I love it.
I will add though that demand tools requires some learning if you haven't used it before. I feel like that's one of those things that you need to be aware of what you're doing, because it's got a lot of horsepower, and you could really mess things up very easily.
Yes, but their new UI, I don't know if you used it when the new UI was available, but
it's been a little while.
It's much simpler to use. I don't use the new UI yet because I like the old one so much. And there's a few things that the new one doesn't do yet that the old one still does, like report editing. But
Mhm.
anyway,
Yeah.
game changer for data for sure.
Thank you.
Good.
Actually,
like it.
I have a question on that, if you don't mind. Do these tools fix things like, you know, the lack of capitalization on names and?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you do
Well-
cleansing as well as merging. Yeah, they'll do some nice stuff. And some of them even have those post office comparators that make sure your addresses meet the same like rules. So it's always ST period or whatever. That's
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One of the fun things is when I exported it, the Excel dropped the leading 0 in the postal code. or
Right,
post-
because it's not really a
Sorry,
number.
zip code,
It
zip
should be a
code,
text
sorry.
field. It should be a text field.
Yeah,
it's
no,
not-
it should be, but yeah, when you export it, it exported it without it. It's like, oh crap.
Yep.
And sometimes they lead with 2 zeros, so you're left with 3 digits.
Oh, really? There's some states with 2's leading zeros? Okay. Okay.
Not
Good
well,
to know.
not some states, but it's in zones, right? And
Well, zones, yeah.
there's-
Yeah.
there's what, 6 or whatever, 9 zones, whatever it is, but like the first zone is a 0. I just went down a wild rabbit hole on zip codes, and I was like, interesting. It's like the mapping and how it's all done, and I'm like, I had no idea, but this makes more sense to me now.
Oh, yeah, it's like I learned about postal codes in Canada during a mail strike one year. Many years ago. But they all start with letters, so we don't have the leading 0 problem. But yeah,
And the regions are like their distance from like that the starting point, right? And so
Mhm.
it's all very interesting, like the history of it. But sorry, I digress. It's not Salesforce related unless you're dealing with mailing addresses and Excel exports of zip codes.
all right. I'll shut up now.
No. But the short answer is yes, it does clean up nonsense with phone numbers, with names, with street names, with all that good stuff. And Diane, what's the word I'm looking for? Endorsement of demand tools is I second that, absolutely. So Tony, we're gonna put you on the spot. Do you have questions for us today? But you're muted, so.
At this point, I just came, it's been a long while since I've come in to take a listen because in my influence of trying to really learn more and more about automation portion of Salesforce, specifically getting away from, getting ready to get involved with the new changeover from process builder on. Generally, I had, come to take a look and see if anybody had anything, any questions on the overall upgrades taking place for that.
I really miss workflows, but I don't get to do them anymore. So they were like my best little buddy, but they're gone now. So.
Yeah.
They're my best little buddy, but they're gone now, and I understand why. But I'm just not friends with Flo yet, so I'll get there. I'll get there.
Yeah, it's for me, having learned Apex, gotten through Apex, and then had to go and really get involved before flows became the dominant thing. Now it's just having to step, I don't know if I say step backwards, but it's kind of like having to go back because you're not exactly programmed. It's not like dealing with workflows. It's a little bit of a step up. It's somewhere in between. So that's what I'm trying to go through. There's a class that I was taking that actually was on Udemy that just, this guy really has you go through use cases. And I thought, man, this is really great. So that's what I'm taking right now. I mean, this would be something that you would expect probably to find, when you're on the job and you have to talk to clients and you have to get a process, you have to create a process and step through that process with the client and then transfer that into flows, which is really, I thought, really good.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to share a link to that?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say.
Oh, yeah. I'll go ahead and do that.
Drop that in the chat. That'd be super duper.
All right, no problem. Just
the other thing I'll offer, Tony, just to put you on the spot again, is
yes.
the kind of the transition from workflow to process to flow has been in flight for so long that I think a lot of people have kind of become numb to, well, I'll speak for myself, but kind of become numb to the surprise of that. And so you're probably not going to hear a lot of questions to like right now, but that doesn't mean you don't have questions. Don't be afraid to like reach out. I mean, there are people who are still trying to find their way, and we've already breezed past what like some of those conversations, and you know, don't feel like you're like you can't ask the same question again if there's something top of mind, you know, bring it up.
Thanks. I know that the client that we're working with right now is going through the labors of having anything that could be done with Process Builder to be converted to flows pretty soon. So that's one of the things I'm trying to ramp up on, because at this point, I don't know if I'll have enough involvement in that, but as far as the maintenance, I probably will. More than likely will be. So I need to really make sure that I get to understand this pretty well and solid and have that locked in. So
if I might offer, I think you're in a really good position to drive some thought leadership there. So often a flow builder doesn't think like a developer. And as a result, you don't have really crisp logic decisions, and you don't have the best documentation. And so like coming at it as a developer and helping those people that are doing those conversions understand some of the like developer centric thoughts is a really good place to be in, because it helps you and it helps them.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't think about it that way. I could make some suggestions, you know, possibly to see, you know, because you just knew that this was going to happen. I don't know why, but when I had started working on flows, this is way back, I guess in like 2018, I think it was, I was doing flows, and I was thinking, oh, this looks like it could be the death knell of Process Builder probably one day. I don't know if people are going to start leaning into it more and more. And sure enough, yeah, it's like, hey, you know, I heard it on 2020 that, hey, listen, it seems like Process Builder is going to go. Process Builder seems to be a high engine version of flow, where it's a high level where you actually have an, I don't know, it's like an interface, but the flow is more of a kernel of what we took for granted with Process Builder in some cases. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah,
So,
I think you're spot on there.
Yeah. So yeah. So I'll drop that link in. So
Yeah,
that'd be great. Thank you so much.
And of course, because they move from project to project, but they thread it through. So if you totally are lost and you make a misstep somehow, you'll probably have to ask questions from the instructor, or you can't complete that one until you can go. You can't complete the next one until you finish everything on that one. So you're just stuck.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Right.
So,
I mean, but that's how flow is, right? Like,
yes. Yeah.
and remember, like when flow was first introduced to all of us, it was not the like fancy version that it is today. It was super clunky, not easy to understand. You had to be able to type out so many like different commands, and you know, had to name your things the way you had to know so much more. And now there's a little bit more click and drag to it. So point click, yeah, that's what I meant. Button click, that's it.
Yeah, just give me a couple of minutes. I'll get that down there.
In that same space, I think I've mentioned in the past, but the super badge queue for flow has like quintupled. I think there's like 30 of them now that are flow specific. Maybe not that many, 20 for sure.
Wow.
And so if you're a fan of Trailhead, you, Tony, or anyone, and you want to kind of test your mettle, there's quite a few really good trails out there, and the prereqs are really clearly defined, I think, as far as making sure that you kind of aren't left holding a use case that you can't accomplish. Highly recommend it.
There is a flow quest also.
Yep.
That is a terrible link, Joy. What the heck? Hold on a second, I'll get it. I just pasted a link in and I'm like, that was not what I just copied. So there's a flow automation. I have 4.5 hours left in the quest. But there's a good deal of learning available in that if you want to go down that rabbit hole also. And there might be a prize at the end, right? That's the,
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
yeah. What is it? The flow quest is, I don't know, chance to win something. They all have different things going on.
That's good. Thanks. So now you have both.
Cool.
Yep.
Hello, Mark. Welcome to the call today. We're picking on everybody individually because we're such a small group.
This is my first time. I just
Welcome.
started. Yeah, thank you. I just started. I've been a member of the Ohana Slack. What is it called? A workspace? Yeah, workspace
Yes.
for a long time, but I'm finally finding some time to actually visit it once in a while. And I ran across Joy's post this morning. Oh, that's you. And I said, oh, I'll go see what. At first, I thought it was only MVPs, and then it seemed like you open it up to everybody.
Yeah. We
For
like to say
everybody.
that everyone's an MVP for being on the call. So
Yeah, taking
I kinda
taking
figured there'd
learning
be-
into your own hands.
I figured there'd be more.
It's
Considering
a holiday
the,
week.
yeah, that's true.
There
The
usually
random
is.
channel has over almost 12,000 followers. So, but only 9 people showed up today.
yeah, we usually hit about 20 to 30 depending on the topics and the schedule. So we have a pretty good conversation. Well, I mean, welcome. I hope to have you back.
Sounds good.
The so what I'm really curious because I don't know if anyone has any questions right now. Tony, we got through a little bit of your questions. Mark, if you have any questions, like just let us know. Because Kathy's working on a migration project. Christy's hiding out in the corner. Diane has a question. Diane, let us have it.
I'm just curious if anybody has tried the Teams integration to Salesforce. I know a lot of people use Slack and that's the cool and hip thing to do, but my company does not use Slack.
I'm with
And
you.
yours doesn't either?
We are, I know we canceled Slack and now we only use Teams and we're canceling Zoom and we're only going to use Teams.
So have
So
you
that's-
looked into the team? There's Teams integration. You can type it and set up, which I didn't know even, which is bad. But and I just did it today because I was trying to think of, you know, our support group. You know, we use Service Cloud, and our support group doesn't even have Chatter enabled in their Service Cloud. When I'm
Oh,
thinking,
wow.
they communicating? They must be using Teams and going outside of Salesforce. And so I started looking into whether there was integration, and then I found that there is. And I just, before I went down that path, I just was hoping somebody may have done it already and said, hey, it's great, or don't go there, or, but no one on the call today, huh?
Yeah, I don't have any experience integrating Teams and Service Cloud essentially. I mean, that would be really amazing for some
I
of
think
our
if you do
people.
Teams, and yeah, do Teams. See it, Teams integration. And it's a toggle.
Mhm.
Oh, I have it accessible to me. I don't have to ask my account executive. Maybe it's because we're on a
The $0 Teams integration. They're not
Yeah,
just going to
it's
leave it out
basically
there.
a
You gotta
platform
ask for it.
license that they have to give to you. There's some pretty good documentation here. I don't know if you've gone through it, Diane.
No, I didn't yet.
I think that personally, I think the challenge will be the same challenge we've had with every Microsoft integration, which is they don't really want to play nice with Salesforce, but you know, the two big brothers in the room, they have to play a little bit nice, but I mean, it'll never be as good as Slack, but it'll be as close as you can get.
Okay,
And
I'll take the documentation.
I believe there is a success group. I feel like when we looked at this a year ago, I ended up on a success group for some conversation too. So
If you scroll up, Squire, in the left reel, the header might have set up, if you click on set up the Teams integration, that might have the success group somewhere. No. I was really hoping it would.
I was
Maybe
hoping for like a video, you know, where it would show me what it looks like. You know, that's really what I'm interested in. But I'll do a search again. It was real quick before the call, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but I just thought since we only have so few people, I'd just bring it
No,
up.
I mean, perfect. We love the questions because, you know, we're happy to like do like the searching that we do and get you like on the right path, right? Because that's sometimes that's half the battle.
Yeah.
Fun
Agreed.
times. Fun times. I actually asked for a Jira integration with Teams. And my help desk is like, why do you need this? And I was like, because I want it. Like,
All right. Say more, because I feel like it's a big step to go to Jira, but you come from a Jira world, right?
I don't come from a Jira world. I'm wrapping my head around it. But no, my world is all Jira. Like everything I do comes out of Jira, and I don't really get to talk to my users. But all of the tickets and the ticket commenting and the notifications and all of the status changes and whatnot. So liken that to a case in Salesforce, if you will, right?
Yep.
All of that just comes through and it like hits an email filter in my Outlook, and then it just sits there because there's so much. And I'm like, I'm not going to get through it all. So I recently asked my help desk, I was like, can I get the RSS feed for my activity into Outlook, or can I get this hooked up with Teams? Because the emails are not manageable. It's just not manageable. So hopefully we get that next.
I would love to know what you've done with that, because I do manage my caseload through Jira tickets as well. That was all set up before I started here. And we just make people comment and mention people. Otherwise, I turned off all my notifications because I
Well,
was
right.
getting spam. So
Right.
the only was when someone mentions me.
Sure. There's two things I did. Like I customized my own Jira dashboard so that I could see my activity and all of my tickets that I am responsible for and whatnot. But there's also like an option for an RSS feed that I could like push into my Outlook, which I really wanted to connect, but it's like, you need an administrator. I'm like, fine. So I logged a ticket with our help desk. I'm like, can someone who has better access than me to Outlook handle this? That'd be great.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah, but the customized dashboard helped a lot, and I obviously can't share that, but it's like bring in different components like you would in a Salesforce dashboard almost. And I don't know if you have access to do that or not. I was surprised I had access to create my own dashboards.
I do not. So,
Well, you never know until you try, really. Like,
oh, I've tried. Trust
okay.
me.
But there's different components that I was able to add. And like I added my timesheet, I added assigned to me, I added activity stream, so I could just have that all like in one space, because the timesheet's really important that it's at 40 hours every week.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to update us on whether that goes through and you get access and how it's working, because I'd be interested to know.
Yeah. And on the activity stream, Diane, there's an RSS feed link that you might be able to tap into with your team if that's something that you're interested in.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's all I got. I can't even believe I was talking about Jira intelligently. That's crazy.
You've done good.
I mean, I was doing other stuff in VS Code today too. I was like, oh, and it was crazy.
It's not a contest, Joy.
No, it was, let me just tell you, it was like finding my own gold stars today. And I was like, this is amazing. I can't believe I was doing this, because a year ago, if you had told me to do anything in any of these tools, I might have cried. So that's where I'm at. It's not a contest. It's just.
Yeah, there you go.
Good job, Joy. All
Todd,
right.
you want to give us an update on your contract thing?
I sure can.
Can you remind
So-
everybody what we were talking about? I
Yep,
remember.
quick
what we were saying,
recap.
but-
Couple weeks ago on this call, actually, I brought forward a problem that they were wanting to do security on contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, contracts are closely associated with accounts, and our accounts are public. So there was no way to really lock down the contracts to only certain people seeing them and their attachments. So upon the recommendation of the group, I went out and created a custom object and started from there. So I'd forgotten how much fun it is to create a custom object and add dozens of fields manually.
You mean you didn't create a spreadsheet and load it? Come on.
No, no, no.
That's what interns are for.
Yeah, solo admin here, thanks. So anyway, I got that all set up, played around with security. I was using Developer Console to insert records into the share object and played around with that and got it figured out. And then what we ended up doing, and I actually got it working just before this call, we have various chatter groups that are going to need, those are basically the groups that need access to these contracts, either update or read only, and some don't have access at all. So I figured out I can use sharing rules with public groups to do this. The security that I need, I've got a read-only group and I've got an update group, public groups, but then I don't want to have to manage those day in, day out every time someone changes a position. So I stumbled across an article out in, I believe it's Automation Champion,
Sure.
with a little model of how to take changes from chatter groups and drive those into a public group. So I got that working this morning, actually. That's one of the first flows I've ever written that worked right out of the gate. So we can add members to a chatter group and then it drives them into the appropriate public group. And then the sharing rule actually says whatever's in this public group, this is the level of access they get to the contract, and then that drives down to the attachment, or the file, I should say. So the fun part I was working on that I finally got working just before here was what happens when they delete a member of a chatter group.
Yep. I
So
was going to
a
ask.
beautiful flow. It was lovely. Blew up
Yep.
with a mixed DML. So
Yep.
late morning this morning, I learned about custom platform events. And I have a flow that now creates a custom platform event record. And then I have a platform event triggered flow that picks that up and does the deletion from my public group. So
Wow.
I've started the testing. That's what I'll be working on later this afternoon and probably part of next week is to really beat it up and see where my holes might be. So
So do you
kind of like you said, I've learned a lot of stuff in the last 3 or 4 days here.
Are you using an event to both add and remove?
No, to add it, I'm actually using a
Just a standard.
it's a flow, but it's the oh darn it. See, my terminology is leaving me. Where it's an asynchronous side of the flow instead of immediate.
Yep.
Because the immediate throws the mixed DML exception. So I have
on delete, right?
Say again.
On delete?
No, on add also.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking is
I'm doing
having 2 different methods to add and remove could be a maintenance challenge. If you haven't implemented using an event to both add or remove, now you've got the same you might have to run 2 different flows, but you'd have the same logic for both the adds and removes. You don't have like 2 different overarching systems to do that, because you can obviously use an event to do any of those things.
Right. Well, I've got 2 flows now, one to add and one to remove from the public group.
But
what's
they're
the
not
trigger?
both relying on an event, right?
No.
Yeah.
The one that adds relies on the collaboration group creation or update. And it triggers there. So it's the after save. It's an after save flow. And that's why I got into the mixed DML, because it was still in the collaboration group transaction trying to update the group.
Yep. And again, all I was suggesting was that if you haven't implemented yet, give it some thought about would you want the additions to run through an event as well as the deletions to run through a platform event, so
Gotcha.
you have the same methodology to add and remove people from these public groups. That's all I was getting at.
Okay.
Something to think about. I mean, if
Yes,
it works,
it
it
is.
works. There's no reason to refactor just to refactor, but
Nope, something to think about. I kind of try to operate by do it right, do it once. But
yeah. The other thing that I've seen, if this like extends and you start to realize you're writing lots of these or handling more of these, I've also seen interfaces that rather than having people add members to groups through the chatter interface, you have a screen flow that does things like modify your group membership. And then the screen flow itself handles all the adds and removes from one interface for all of the available groups, for all available users. You can even have it flip and say, give me a list of the groups, who's in them, but you can also say, hey, what groups are Squire in? And you can reverse it. So you get like a nice interface to do all of that management. So keep that on your roadmap if you have more of this coming.
Okay. I don't see any of it right now. This is the first one, but
cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you. I appreciate those ideas.
So did everyone have a great 4th? Like, it's a slow day. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
The 4th was great because I was working and nobody else was. So I could get stuff done. That's
Kathy,
what happens when your holiday's on the weekend. You take Monday off instead.
yeah, I think a lot of folks took Monday off in
Yeah.
the States also. For those of you that don't know, you're in Canada, right?
Yep.
You're not like somewhere else.
Oh. But you had Canada Day, right?
Yeah, we
Happy Canada-
but we got Monday in lieu of Saturday, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the middle of the week holidays are always a really weird thing. And that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you get the Monday off, you get the Friday off. Or you don't.
Our CEO just said, the heck with it. Let's take the Monday and Tuesday off, because if you take the Tuesday off, then you have Monday to compensate for that. It's kind of like, okay, we're in the weird throes of a middle of a week thing. Let's just take the 2. And so we just took the 2, and so we came back on Wednesday. So yeah. So
Yep. So
We're implementing DevOps Center.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Been a long time coming.
who's in charge of that, Squire? Are you in charge of that?
That's me. My co-architect is in India for 3 weeks on vacation, so it had to be me anyway. But we've been talking about it for over a year, and we finally got the GitHub Enterprise licensing allocations, and everything's configured and ready to roll out. So on Monday, I'll be setting up pipelines and starting the documentation, and I'm really excited. A little nervous, but really excited because it'll be a good opportunity for everyone. We've got to manage 3 orgs and like 9 businesses across those 3 orgs, and so it can be a real bureaucratic nightmare to get changes checked in with our current process. So DevOps is going to help us with that.
I think you need to create a documentary on that process, Squire.
Only if there's no tears.
There's no crying in Salesforce.
That's not true.
No. But I'm really looking forward to being able to speak to it in more detail, because I know this group, as well as the user groups I'm tied to, have all asked lots of questions. So I'm hoping to be able to like give some real, like, it's always been on paper examples. And now I can really do some of the stuff. So
What are you no longer going to use? Are you no longer going to use chain sets, or are you one of the other paid applications?
Sure. So currently, Baird is from an IT perspective, we have like multifunctional development teams. And so we currently rely, or I should actually currently, not even true, in the last 9 months, we made some changes. We were using a combination of every developer could use whatever IDEs they wanted, and then leveraging a Go pipeline and a Microsoft TFS Visual Studio repository for all the deployments. And that works great for standard programmatic work. We kind of pigeonholed our Salesforce deployment into that same model, but what we were getting is a combination of, it's not really a merge and a source repository because of Salesforce. It was really more just like a replication of the current deployments. And that, then as a result, that with multiple development teams kind of fighting with each other, because it's not doing any compares, it's only doing merges. So we'd step on each other's toes quite a bit. So we've recently moved the majority of our infrastructure to Azure DevOps. And while they were talking about pushing Salesforce to Azure DevOps. I said, we're not going to get any benefits from that with our current modeling. I want to go to Salesforce DevOps. We did the pilot, we did the go through all the hoops, and we're feeling really good about it. So we'll still leverage change sets as a hotfix backdoor, but we're going to be doing 99% of our work through Salesforce DevOps deployments.
I see. So I don't know that much about DevOps, but my perception was it was like a poor man's version of Capado or Flosum. And I've used those tools a little bit. I'm certainly no expert in either one of them.
Yep. We evaluated Flosum and AutoRabbit and Capado. We've over the years we've looked at all of those. I would say rather than calling it the poor man's version, I'd say those are the rich man's version of DevOps. The Salesforce DevOps lies right on top of GitHub, and it will rely on Bitbucket and on, there's a third one. And it just gives admins and developers a Salesforce interface to play with GitHub without having to really understand GitHub. And then you've got it layers on your standard DevOps approvals and workflow and history tracking. And so, I mean, it's a really nice step in the direction of like a real source control. I think there are probably teams that would really benefit from the bigger, like a Capado or some of those other tools, just because of how much more expansive it can be. In our case, we're a declarative first shop. We're managing multiple business units and leveraging the platform at its core. We're not reliant on a lot of a code base, and so we get a lot of value out of this.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So you have to have GitHub also.
Yep.
And now, I'm assuming is that a paid product?
It doesn't have to be. So when we did our pilot, I just spun up a free GitHub repository and was able to connect to it and do all of our pilot through our markets. I don't know if everybody might not know this, but Microsoft owns GitHub. And so a lot of times if you've got an enterprise account contract with a Microsoft, like a 360, there's probably GitHub licenses buried in it as part of that agreement. And so that's all we did is when it came time to pull the trigger, we're just like, where are GitHub licenses? And we got them allocated. So.
And DevOps itself is there a cost to that?
Totally free.
Yeah. I see. Yeah, it's on my list of things to learn. Is there any Trailhead on it or partner learning camp?
There's 2 Trailhead modules. They're very high level. I would say if you want to learn what Salesforce DevOps can do, the documentation is real good. And then there's quite a few presentations. Karen Fidelic and her team have been presenting this for over a year, and they've got a lot of good stuff just sitting out in the ether, but not Trailhead yet. If you know GitHub, they basically translate GitHub to Salesforce ease. And so, I mean, if you know GitHub,
I don't know GitHub.
Oh, okay.
I'm a declarative guy too.
Perfect. I think from that perspective, I'd say that the ability to have change tracking in your sandboxes, so you don't have to build a change set, it builds it for you. Having a pipeline that automatically does compares, merges, and conflict resolution through the pipeline, and being able to do bundling through the pipeline to get to deployment are all like change set plus, and it just really made a lot of sense for us because we were basically replicating change set thinking with a really complex, not Salesforce thinking deployment pipeline.
Interesting.
There is not a lot of Trailhead on that, is there?
No, and the 2 that I can think of really don't talk too much about DevOps itself. They talk about the value of DevOps, but not really the tooling.
Right. Yeah, and if there, many times Trailhead, all it is it's a good introductory primer on a particular topic, but many times there is no depth to it. So, but it's a place to start.
Sure.
If anything, what I do is I scroll to the bottom of the module and look for the links to other stuff.
Yep.
And that's many times how I find interesting things. So,
and that's where I would point you in right away. Then, I mean, the links to the DevOps implementation and admin guides; those guides are really well written. So,
Well, I'll add it to my list of things I need to read.
There's only one or two, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, I can't keep up with everything between Medium and Slack, and there's just too much content out there to read.
Indeed.
We were just talking about Slack being a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
For a lot of folks that don't currently have it. And so it's not part of their daily, but it's becoming more and more prevalent. So
I'm just kind of curious, who's paying for all this? Who's paying for your Zoom meeting? Who's paying for the Slack subscription? I mean,
Salesforce, Ohana Slack.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I
Ohana
meant.
Slack is paid for by Salesforce.
Oh, okay.
Because Salesforce owns it, and the wonderful person that created that space as a free workspace to start, she raised her hand at Dreamforce and said, "Hey, now that you all own this thing, can we get this paid for? Can we get the paid version?" And we got it. So now it's paid for. But Megan's no longer with us. But she, did amazing things for that workspace. So I love seeing it thrive. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I worked with Megan for a short time at 7 Summits about, I want to say 8 years ago. We were both doing community projects.
Yeah. So yeah, she boldly asked and was granted the wish. So
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. I don't know how they could have said no in that environment.
Oh, right.
Yeah, especially if she called it out like in the middle of a huge breakout session at Dreamforce or something.
There was a lot of people there.
Yeah.
But it worked out. And it makes good sense because as people in the Ohana, we're fans of the products. If we can use them, if we can try them out, and then we can evangelize them to our own spaces and get better at it. So there's a lot of Slack learning available. There's a lot of Git learning. There's all that stuff is all available if you know where to look and if you have the right searching parameters. I feel like that's half the battle.
Right. Exactly.
Quiet day on 7th of July.
I
mean, it's okay to call it quits if everybody's needs a cup of coffee and a potty break before their 2 o'clocks. We can call it if there's nothing else.
Well, we lost Christy, so yeah.
Yeah, I think she probably
We
has
lost
2 o'clock
Christy.
like the rest of us. So
Probably.
Right.
So thanks everybody so much for joining us today. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Thank you, Diane. And if you need anything between now and then, the community group is the place to go. We as a collective are not holed up in Slack anywhere at this point, but trying to keep it all in the community space. Keep it corralled a little bit.
let's start something new. Like I'm gonna call Mark to the table and say, "Hey, Mark, first time in. Let's all of us try to find a new attendee for 2 weeks from now and start getting some new blood in the meetings." I think it's great to have a new voice and a new face and some new thought. So maybe the 6 of us that are left in the call can try to find somebody else to.
Ugh, I'm sorry.
Bring a friend.
I may have
Yeah.
a question next time. So
All right, perfect.
I thought of something as somebody else was saying it. So it's like, okay, but I want to try it first and see. It's a question a client has asked, but I haven't actually made an attempt yet. So
Okay.
if I
Well,
run into trouble, I'll be back.
Yeah, put it into success. At least we'll remember that we had a question. So
Yep.
cool.
No problem.
So everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you in
Thanks
2 weeks.
everybody. Take care. We'll see you in 2.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye all. Where's my?
We're recording.
Yeah, I can never find the